it's Miss Kelly Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have something special and we have the Rental Revenue Builders group here. So what is that? That is a group of investors, including myself, and we all have experience in different forms of real estate investing. And our focus is to guide you to how you could get a rental. And that's any type of rental. And why is that the focus? Well, it's because rentals are going to lead you to greater net wealth, basically. And that's just what it is. It's ultimately going to make sure you are okay for the long term into retirement. As long as you have some type of rental property, you're always going to have some type of cash flow. So today's video is going to just basically introduce the group to you guys. And we are going to continue to have these videos once a month where we collaborate on different topics in regards to real estate investing. So first, let's go ahead and start with Alejandro. So Alejandro, go ahead and tell us who are you?
Well, I am the father of Victor and Selah Cornejo first. those are my two kids. Obviously, real estate they are the reason why I started investing in real estate. But I do live in St. Louis, been investing in real estate about 10 years now officially, and started in buying holds, multifamily, and have gotten into hard money lending as well, and have enjoyed that. And I just believe what I'll be able to share is just the ability to have different places to play within the real estate space. That's why I really like it. That's why I get involved, because it's not one size fits all. There are a lot of ways to make this thing work and to, like you said, trying to build wealth and trying to get better. That's why I love this space.
All right. Now, what do you want people to really learn from you?
Mindset is probably going to be one of the first things, because for me and at the time when I was married, it was about getting on the same page in being able to do this. And your mindset, if you're still thinking from non-productive ways, lack mentality, scared, it's going to be difficult for you. And if you're married or if you're doing this with family, having unity is going to be critical, having that mindset. So I think that, but also the different ways that you can think about real estate, I think is very important for you to have an affinity. You got to want to do it. Anything you do in life, if you don't have some kind of vitality, some kind of excitement about doing it, you're not going to do it. That's why people do exactly what they want to do, right? Even if they watch TV all day, because they want to. So I think that mindset is very important, and knowing what you're going after so that you'll want to do it and you'll be inspired by doing it.
And I'm glad you said that, because definitely I agree. Mindset is 100% a part of any type of business. It's a part of life in general, but in particularly real estate investing, you have a spouse and they're not on board. That makes it challenging to do this business, because you have to make decisions with your spouse, because ultimately they are your life partner, right? So I'm glad that is something that you will be talking about. And I am sure that a lot of people will get, some great information from you. So Alejandro, tell everybody, when did you get started in real estate investing?
Yeah, I mean, technically it's an interesting story, because two of the people that got me in real estate are on this phone call right now. And that's you, Kelly. Back when I was working at Pfizer, man, I think you told me about it in 2008 or something like that. And then I think I met Marlon in 2010. He was one of the first people. So I put my first offer on a property. I think that house on Cherokee, Marlon, was like 2011 or something like that. The deal didn't go through, but I learned a lot through that process. So, but I would say that's my official start, is when I put an offer on something about 2011.
I know you do a lot of different things in real estate investing, but as far as a specific focus in real estate investing, what is that specific focus and why did you choose that?
Well, right now, and this is something that I think the listeners might want to take notes on, that it's about doing something, getting started, because where you start may not be where you finish. In the beginning, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it was all about, hey, you need to acquire some properties, which I still believe that is very important. But as I mentioned earlier, I went through a divorce. So for those of you going in with a partner, again, very important. Real estate wasn't the reason why we separated or got divorced, but it is important to understand that once I got out of that, assets had to be liquidated, things had to be separated. And I found myself in a situation of wondering, okay, what am I going to do next? And found that private money lending, because I had some cash because of some liquidation. I had cash and I wanted to get into a deal, but the market was crazy with COVID and whatnot. I accidentally, that's the other thing too, through networks, accidentally got into hard money lending. And with that, I'm also opening up new opportunities for other buy and holds. But hard money lending was something I didn't expect to do. But being that I am someone that still works, and because I like what I do, I work in corporate America, but I'm leveraging my qualified plans. And that's another thing too. People don't think they have any money. Yes, you do. You have money in your 401k, you have money in your IRA, and people can use that money to do rehabs, you can invest in a lot of different ways. So right now, that's where I'm focused on. But here's the last thing I'll say. I've learned in this business as well that partnerships are critical, or they're crucial. Sometimes you think you have to do this alone. There's something that you might have that another person may need, and they have something that you need. So I think that your ability to partner and just be in the game, just do something and opportunities are going to happen. If you do nothing, nothing is going to happen. For me, hard money lending, any buy and holds as they come. But right now, hard private money lending is where I'm focused the most.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Alejandro. All right, so next we are going to go to Dominique. Now, I know a lot of you have already seen Dominique on my channel before talking about commercial real estate. So let's go ahead and let him tell you a little bit more about himself. Tell everybody who you are, Dominique.
Hi, everybody. Dom Walker. I am a father. I am an ex-corporate professional, retired from corporate America, just doing commercial real estate full time. I'm excited to be here today to meet everybody.
Okay. All right. So Dominique, tell us what area of real estate investing you focus on. I know you said commercial real estate, but you do some other things. But is that specifically what you are focusing on right now?
I actually started off in real estate specifically with short-term rentals. I immediately, kind of just reached a point where I was just burnt out, right? I was really just going through back-to-back check-ins and check-outs and managing all of the guests, managing the property management that comes in to clean the property. I got burnt out, just like you said with mindset. You got to start somewhere. You got to have a plan, right? So once I, really just jumped into my first property, the short-term rental side, I met a mentor. I think that is 100% the first step for anybody getting into real estate. When I first bought my property purchase, I really didn't have mentorship. I really didn't have any type of direction or strategy. So once I aligned with the mentor, we kind of discussed the deal that I currently had. From that point on, very much a seasoned vet in the game on the commercial real estate side, specifically with multifamily. From that moment thereon, he told me, hey, based on the numbers that you've just kind of just ran down to me and based on the numbers of your first purchase, you actually could have got a multifamily property specific situation. So immediately right then and there, I knew that multifamily was going to be the next step for me. And then I jumped right into really commercial multifamily real estate, thereafter. So right now, I've been in commercial real estate for over 4 years now. It's really just been a great experience for me. It's really allowed me to step away from corporate America and really focus on really building generational wealth for my family. But also, it really, really, has inspired the individuals around me, right? I went to college. I did some great things in corporate America as well. And I'm really kind of just a living testimony that, hey, if whatever you want to do, all you need to do is, put your mind to it, have some strategy behind it, and take action. That's really what it's about. A lot of times, we're working these corporate jobs and great, high paying corporate salaries. And, for whatever reason, we don't like working there, right? We don't like the position that, we're in, but we continue to do that. And we continue to just keep moving for years and years and years and not take any action on what you're passionate about. That's just been my experience thus far. And like I said, I'm just really excited to just share, how I started in real estate with you guys and just learn from the rest of the folks on.
So Dominique, tell us, where do you currently invest?
I currently invest based in Los Angeles. So on the single family side, obviously I invest in LA, but all of my multifamily commercial properties are in the Midwest, specifically south suburbs of Chicago, as well as the city of Chicago as well.
So I think you pretty much told us like your why and where, all the information about why you chose to focus on commercial real estate and what you are here to teach people. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
So next, we are going to go to Marlon. Marlon, tell everybody who you are.
The Bernie Mac of the group. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Marlon Clark. I'm a father of three. I'm a wholesaler here in St. Louis. Kind of got started in real estate back in 2009, and then doing starting off with short sales, and then graduating to wholesaling, and then kind of been doing wholesaling since 2000, maybe 12. 13, right about 10 years or so.
So tell everybody, what do you want them to learn from you?
So learning from me, my main thing is I want to teach people actually how to get maybe discounted properties and kind of the process to getting properties at the right price per se, where you can actually get a cash flow. I specialize now in dealing with specifically with landlords. Get property from landlords that's trying to get out of the business, and then transferring them to people who are getting into the business, and then kind of working out everything in between there.
So what made you focus on wholesaling?
I got into this business. So basically it's pain points. That's really what it boils down to. My entire business is built off of distress. I got into the business because of distress. I was basically victim of distress. I was in the whole foreclosure situation when I was in 2009, had the different interest rates and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't know anything about real estate at all. Jump into real estate was just that I needed to find out more about what was going on in my own situation, which led me to trying to get involved, trying to find out what a short sale was. That led me to a real estate investment group, which led me to end up buying a course on short sale, making a business out of that course for like 3 to 4 years, and then, extending my own loan for a certain period of time. But then as things started to change, I got involved with wholesaling because the law started to change. And then in 2012, they changed the rules. And then so between 2012 and 2013, I didn't do anything. I tried to study every different aspect of real estate. And the one that caught me impression on me was real estate because it was something I could do pretty much anywhere without a whole lot of resources, but still can make a significant amount of money where I didn't have to go back to work. And then so during that progression, you learn a few things, and then you start sharing a few things and kind of end up where I am now.
Right when I met Marlon, I was doing my first rehab that sucked, and we'll talk about that story later. But he was kind of helping me, and we were kind of trying to talk to each other and give each other tips and tricks and things like that. But we actually started doing short sales together. And so we were doing that whole course. We sat down, we were, helping people out. And that's when I got started going in the direction of having more rentals. Now, before the whole flip, though, I actually bought my first property and it was a house hack. So this was basically when I was working with you at Pfizer, Alejandro. So I bought a 2-family building and I lived on one side and rented out the other side. Now, it wasn't called house hacking back then, but that's what they call it now. So I actually started, I think I got that property in about 2003 or 4. Yeah. So that would be my introduction, I should say, to the whole being a landlord, having a multifamily building and starting that process or that journey going down real estate investment. But outside of that, I am also I'm a mother of 2. I have little ones that keep me busy and they're little boys, so they're active. Yes, I do that. I teach people about, real estate. I also have another business where I just hold my long-term rentals because I also have long-term rentals. So I have that side of the business, and then that's pretty much it. I invest here in St. Louis, Missouri. I have done some investing with short-term rentals in Arizona, a little bit of that. Basically, most of my investing has been here in St. Louis. One common thread between all of us is that when we started, we did not make the best decisions, and it was a struggle. And a lot of us, and I think all of us really, had to get some type of mentorship to guide us in the right direction. We definitely had to work with people and get courses and things like that laid it out for us so that we can make different decisions. And I know I'm still learning. I mean, I don't know everything about real estate investing. So we are definitely going to learn from each other because I don't know much about the financial side of like hard money lending and raising private capital, as well as the commercial side. So I am excited to learn from you guys, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Thank you again for introducing yourself. Let's go ahead and move into our experiences and our stories. Now, when we think about it, and I know we shared a little bit about our background, but what was that first deal or experience that made you say, you know what? I am all in to real estate. I'm done. I don't want to do anything else. This is my focus because this is where how I know it's going to lead me to the path I want to go down as far as that financial freedom and flexibility in life. So who would like to go first? You guys can jump in. I mean, let me know.
Yeah, it's really 2-part. I remember being in Florida and I had bought The Rich Dad, one of the books, What the Rich Invest in That the Poor Don't Know, or something like that. And I remember I was reading that book, and it was an epiphany for me, because I realized, I started thinking, I had just had my daughter, and you just start thinking about the future, what that future is going to look like. And what happens often, I think, for people is, because we're human beings and we're creatures of habit, and as Dom was saying earlier, you get in a rut, and not even a rut, just a routine. And as a result of that routine, you lose track of other things because you're just doing something over and over again. That's just how human beings are. So you're not thinking about stuff, and then you're going to a job, or you're just living life, not even thinking about, in my case, even I wasn't even thinking about my marriage sometimes intentionally. But I remember reading that book and thinking, what am I going to do in the future? And that's when I realized, I remember telling my wife at the time, we were on the beach, and I said, we have to do this. And she's like, what are you talking about? So then after that is when I got aggressive, when I reached out to Marlon, I reached out to you. I was just saying, okay, so how do you do this? Because he was saying, buy a piece of property. So I didn't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. So I just started reading more books. I'm one of those people that like to learn. I started reading more books. And once I met Marlon, put an offer on a house, didn't go through, was a little discouraged, but I just kept doing it. I wasn't getting the houses, but I was learning about how to make offers, how much property was worth. Mm-hmm. The key was that I was out there, and it was exciting because I felt that I'm moving on the goal. But for me, the thing that went over the top is I was putting offers, looking for things, never getting anything. And one day there was this site that it was called the Investor Hub. It was a hodgepodge. You remember the Investor Hub back in the day? Yeah, the Investor Hub. And I remember one day I looked in there and I saw this 4-family building. I think it was one or two. No, and it was a 4-family building. And I said, oh my goodness, this looks like a really good deal. And it was right around the corner from my house at the time. And I remember I got home, I told my wife, I said, look, we need to call this. Are you crazy? I said, I'm going to call it. And then I remember I called the guy on it, and he said, I'll call you back. And I was at a workshop, and finally we got on the phone, and he says, yeah, I'm selling it. It's $65,000. And even for me at the time, remember, lack mentality, that's 65, okay, but I don't know. How much is that going to be down? And I didn't know about hard money and any of this stuff. But then he says, if you buy 2 of them, I'll give you both for 120. And that's when I said, you know what? That I still didn't know necessarily what I was doing. And I just said, okay, let me call you right back. But I remember I said, okay. And I called a couple of friends, and I knew it was a good deal because one of my friends says, if you don't want it, I'll take it. But that was it, because I realized all of a sudden that I could get all these doors. I started going through the pro forma, just going, because I had learned a little bit about what the cash flow would look like, the area. And once I started operating and learning, I realized then that I said, wow, this is how people do it. Before, I never knew how people had extra income coming from the backgrounds that we came, specifically for me as an immigrant, coming from my mom just working all the time, working 2 jobs, all these kinds of things. I didn't understand how wealth was created, but those first 4 families really changed my way of thinking, because I started understanding cash flow, appreciation, tax tax benefits. That changed everything for me.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Alejandro. You brought up a good point, because again, backgrounds, right? I know I didn't grow up in a background where anybody really in my family was doing real estate investing. I mean, I had a grandfather who owned some real estate, but I didn't know how he did it. He, and that was on my dad's side of the family. So he died when I was pretty young. I didn't really know what was happening. So I was like you, just jump in and figure it out. And that's what I did. But yes, coming from the background where my mom was working 2 jobs, and, it was just like, hey, she couldn't help me. I didn't have anybody to say, okay, I'm going to guide you in the right direction. No, not at all. All right. So Marlon, we're going to come to you. What made you go all in on real estate?
So when I was in 2009, my family and I were going through a foreclosure. We didn't really know exactly what was going on. We didn't even know why we were going through a foreclosure. It was that bad. Like we had no financial literacy as far as, these payments have gone up. We don't even know why. Because it was my girlfriend, wife now, but girlfriend at the time. And she had signed paperwork to buy this house. We had a payment that we were paying, and then it almost doubled at the time. So without the understanding of what was going on, I needed to find out how. And then so I started reaching out, trying to figure out, as far as from other investors, like what's this foreclosure thing? What's this, all of that? And it led me to going to real estate investment clubs. Now, these real estate investment clubs, these people were talking about short sales and all this other stuff I had no idea about. For me to understand that, once he was talking about the course, it just made a whole lot of sense. So I end up, I think at the time, going to get credit cards, doing all this extra stuff, and end up buying this course, the short sale course. And once we start going through that course, everything we talked about made sense. Like, I couldn't understand how he had the whole process down to a science, to where like I could just pick up the book now, and now I can manipulate my own course of action through what I was doing to have me stay in the house longer. So once we actually went through the course, did all the things that he said to do in this course, we ended up reaching out to a family that needed help just like we did. And then we ended up putting our house on the contract. Fast forward, I think it was a month or two later, maybe 3 months later, because of the short sale process I had partnered on as far as the whole short sale process. So we were in this deal together, and then we ended up going out and actually getting on a contract and then selling it for $30,000 more than what we had put it on the contract for. And for me, that was life changing, because I'm working a corporate job that I now have to go and have a meeting with them about my performance and how great I'm doing. And then after this performance review, they tell me I can now get a 17-cent raise. A 17-cent raise ended up being a life changer to me, because at that time I knew that was my ceiling. Like, that's as far as I can go within that corporate job. And I was like, much more better opportunity over here. So with that, I was pretty much checked out at that time. I wanted to quit, but I had integrity, so I couldn't get fired, because I still had obligations to the customers to, make sure that they were taken care of. But I couldn't do a bad enough job in order to get fired, so I can get unemployment to keep to keep things moving while I was going through it. But the worst part of the story is that, coming from a background with no money, I'm thinking I'm making a certain amount of money a year. So we get this check in, and it's for like 30 grand. Me and Kelly got to split it. I'm thinking I got 15 grand more than the next deal we did. We made, I think it was 15 grand, so we had to split 7. So now I'm up 27,000. So that's like half my salary at the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, oh, that's half my salary I can take off 6 months. So I decided I'm gonna quit. So I quit my job and try to go do this real estate thing, but then realized that the boss that I now have is way worse than the one the other have, because this one lets you do anything you want to do. So anything I wanted to do was not necessarily what I needed to do. And then 6 months later, I was back at a job. Now I got to realize that, okay, well, I got to take the work ethic that I have here, along with continue to trying to learn to try and get better at what I'm doing. And so did that, closed a couple more deals, end up finally quitting for real, and then haven't looked back at a corporate job since. And that's been 2010 was the last time.
It's funny he listening to this, because this happened so long ago, right? But I remember Marlon would be at work, but he wouldn't be working. Like,
it was bad.
He would have a whole separate computer, and he was bold with it too, like just doing his own thing. And they had this it was a small office at that, so it's not like people didn't see him, right? He was just like, he just didn't care. He was like, I'm doing this real estate thing.
We sending out mailers. I'm answering phone calls. Whatever they told us to do, we was doing it.
So to bring it to me, because that story is related to mine. Yes, that is kind of how I left my job as well. Basically, we were like doing the short sales, and I had a deal that was on my own. So this one wasn't with Marlon. I was doing a short sale on my own, and I walked away with a check. I think it was like $22,000. It was $22,000. So that changed my attitude back then. And I was in my 20s at that. Oh yeah, it was a wrap. So at that point, I had 2 buildings. So I had a total of 3 units I was renting out, and then I had the unit I was living in, right? Then I was doing the short sale, so I was making that money. So once I got that lump sum, I was like, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I can go ahead. I worked a little while longer, but finally it got to the point where I was just like, I'm so checked out. I don't want to be here. So let's go ahead and let's just leave. Let's leave, and pursue this full time. And that's what I did. But also, with that being said, the support of my rentals helped me as well, right? So I took off time, wasn't working, but I had that money coming in from the rentals. So I was like, I'm good. I'm just gonna keep doing this. And so I ended up bouncing around and trying out different parts of real estate, investing and seeing what worked for me and what didn't. But ultimately, that was why I exited corporate America. So Dominique, go ahead and share your story, because your story is newer than ours because you recently left corporate America, right? So go ahead and share what made you go all in on real estate investing.
And, I think for one, all of our stories are just, great stories to hear, but they all like kind of share, one thing in common, kind of making that exit and making that transition full time, right? As I first started off in real estate, I was, obviously working, that corporate 9 to 5 position. Also living in California, right? So it could be tough living in California and leaving any type of job, right? The cost of living in California is just astronomical. So even though I had, pretty much landed my first multifamily, was a 5-unit broker pocket listing, off market deal. It was a turnkey property, buy and hold. It was cash flowing, great, almost paying for my California mortgage, right? Even though I was already at that point, that still wasn't enough, right? When you get into multifamily real estate, you kind of realize that, hey, there are market tenants, there are, subsidized government tenants that, pretty much pay you every month. So even though I had great tenants, right, you still have that thing in the back of your head, like, but what if I don't receive payment from them? I was still a bit hesitant to continue to make that jump. Fast forward maybe 3 to 4 months later, there was a 10-unit property that I wanted prior to the 5-unit that I purchased. Pretty much the seller just wasn't ready. And with that being said, that off-market deal came to me. I bought it direct to seller. And this was a 10-unit property that, 2020 when rates were 3%, I was able to secure literally and that property brings in $9,000 a month. Mortgage is $2,800. And that moment right there, I was just like, you know what, I'm going all in. I need to take that jump. I need to believe that I have a process that works and I have a network that can support me. Did I make that move yet? No. During this time, this was in the span of like 3 months, my job actually, pretty much had this big all hands call, decided to have pretty much a voluntary, severance or a voluntary layoff. And, I was trying to hang in there, and I was hanging in there so long, and I didn't want to leave the company, especially a company that I've spent 11 years building up a 401k, giving them so much time. I wanted to leave with something a little bit extra, right? So with that being said, I was able to take a package from corporate America and leverage those funds to literally fund more deals, but also have, pretty much that comfortability and that excitement to leave and actually get paid to do something that I'm already. That's kind of like my whole story. I'm glad I got to this point, and I'm looking forward to landing more deals in the multifamily.
Okay, so I wasn't incorrect because I'm like, I thought you were out, but you are out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. But see, at least you were able to get out and get a package, right? That's the best way to get out and have that extra money coming through. And yeah, that's good.
That's what I was shooting for and missed.
That's what you shot for?
That's what I was shooting for and missed.
They were not going to give you a package when you were sitting there doing other things
on
your time. Well, it was cool to hear everybody's stories about like what made you go all in.
One thing that I can hear from everyone is that everyone had an unwavering faith that what they were doing was right. Everybody kind of went into it thinking that like this is it. Eventually I'm gonna end up doing this no matter what. And so with that being said, it seems like everybody chose their path and they really just went straight forward. Because I know I had my own challenges with the people that were around me. It's like anything that they said, like I couldn't understand it because in my own mind, like this was gonna work. And that's what I heard. That's what I heard from everybody's story when they were talking about it. That's the one thing I just wanted to point out. It may resonate with somebody later on that if you have an unwavering faith for something and everybody else doesn't around you, kind of got to go with your own gut because it's usually something behind that.
And I'm glad you said that because I mean, like I said earlier, often we are not raised to be entrepreneurs. Basically, that's just what it is. We were not raised to be entrepreneurs. We were raised to go to college, get a job, stay in that job, and retire, right? And I think for about everybody on this call, we are the first of many in our family, or many after us maybe, that made that first move, and just did it. So we were kind of like, I know me, I wasn't really the black sheep. I wouldn't say that because I did have support. Like nobody was like, don't do it. Now my mom was like, are you sure? But she was not like, don't do it. But I think part of that is my personality. She knows that I'm a going to do what I want to do anyway. Sticking to what you feel like you really are passionate about and what you really want to do in life, and not getting stuck doing something that you are not happy doing, because that is a drag. Like, that's not going to work long term. I mean, as we can see right now, even like after the whole pandemic, a lot of people are just waking up to that. Realized it before, but a lot of people are just now thinking like, there's another way, there's another path to happiness here.
Well, you know what? I mean, I'll mention something though, because there's going to be some folks who are in work. Again, I still have a corporate job. The difference is that if you love what you do, there are options. However, what you're doing is you're building wealth. And Storm Leroy is a guy that I follow, and I like what he says. He says, your job is your first business partner. And you have to look at it. Sometimes people are ready to get out of the job, and they forget that that job can be your first business partner, meaning that we talked about 401ks, IRAs. If you have a job and you got a W-2, when it comes to financing, all those things, bank loves that. So I would say in that place where you want to get out, or maybe you say you're fine with the job, but you're still thinking about building wealth. It's that piece of thinking, what are your resources? Because I think in real estate, it's about what are your resources? And there are human capital resources, there are material resources, there are IP resources. There's so many different things out there, and it's your job to develop a skill set with all of those resources. So your ability to network. I mean, now I'm loaning with people that I work with because I showed them how to get an IRA. So I'm thinking your job is your business partner. So you're thinking like that, and you're in that ecosystem. And that's the beauty of real estate, is that there are many different ways to play. And that's what you were talking about earlier, Kelly, that I was trying different things. A lot of times people just think that, oh, I'm going to get in and I'm going to get rich after a year and make a big deal. I think a lot of people think that. They see the stories on Instagram. You're driving in the Lamborghini and everybody's showing all the bling. They're in Bora Bora. And then talking about their Amazon store or their Airbnbs. But I think you have to understand that this is a process that may happen to you. But I think for most of us, most of us that are on here, it's a process. That's why you appreciate it. And you can reduce it if you get the proper training. It doesn't have to take as long, right? But it's not going to happen overnight. But with coaching, with mentorship, you reduce a lot of the pain, a lot of the time, and you can get in the game a whole lot faster.
Yeah, you're right, because getting a loan as an entrepreneur is very difficult. You need to have at least a strong track record for 2 years in your business before they'll even consider you, as far as getting a loan. So great point, Alejandro, right?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to piggyback off that one comment, specifically around, hey, having that 9 to 5 and leveraging that 9 to 5, right? You are building wealth while you have a 9 to 5. And even though I've made my transition, I don't want to kind of just confuse, hey, you don't need a 9 to 5. A lot of times, specifically within our culture, we like to spend a lot on fancy things. We like to take extravagant trips. We like to, go spend $10,000 on first class tickets, right? But when it comes to real estate, right, we approach the real estate game from an overall, like, you know what, let me hold my cards tight to me. Let's go look at a 1 to 4 family and let's just put 3% down. You know what I'm saying? But if we're really kind of just trying to enjoy ourselves, right, we can spend all we want on the lavish life and whatever it be, traveling, clothes, whatever. So I just wanted to leave this message with the audience as, when it comes to real estate, if you go and look at a 1 to 4 family and you putting 3% down, that's great that you got the deal, but, how does it feel from a cash flow perspective, right? Month to month, when one of your tenants don't pay, right? We have to change the narrative within our community, really in regards to going all in with real estate. Hey, if you can secure that property with 3%, if that was your goal, perfect. But my overall message is it takes money to get into this game. And
Yes.
many times with commercial real estate, it takes 20-25% to get into the deal. If you don't have that capital, you're going to be in a problem. If you don't have that 9 to 5, you're going to be in a huge problem. Or you can be like Marlon, right? Finding these deals at a huge deep discount where you could come in with that 3% because guess what? You found a distressed property or you found a deal that has the equity.
And even though, like, as a wholesaler, you don't have to necessarily have a large amount of capital to get started, you still have to have marketing money. You still have to, like, there are still costs involved in being a wholesaler. It may not be as much as other parts of real estate investing, but I mean, Marlon, you might want to shed some more light on that. There's still definitely a cost to doing that business.
Oh, there's definitely a cost to doing this business. And then just like what you guys were talking about being in corporate America while you're doing real estate. And one of the things that, looking back on it, that I would have done is I would have built up that equity while working with somebody and then moving on to corporate America. Because essentially, as a wholesaler, to be a really, really good wholesaler, it does take a whole lot of time. It does take a whole lot of effort. You build up a team to make it have a lot less effort, but you still have a lot of involvement in it. But as a wholesaler in this part of real estate, your job is to cater to people who are working, trying to build a portfolio, because you're their outlet as far as they're leveraging your time now to get deals that they want, things like that. So there is, like I said, there's a lot of resources that go into it. I guess the more money you have, the easier it may get, because you get to bring other people into it. But in the beginning, it's really all you building a relationship, you making the phone calls, you sending out the letters, getting educated enough to be that wholesaler that you can be, to provide service the other way. And that's the biggest thing, that this is a service business, period. It's all based off relationships. You're trying to see what value you bring to this environment, and then you capitalize off of that.
I mean, thank you for sharing that, Marlon. I know from my experience when just talking to people who just want to get into like the midterm rental space, and everybody's like, you know, I want to do rental arbitrage, and they're trying to find like the cheapest way to do this thing. And I'm like, yeah, you still got to have some money. You know, you may not have to have a whole lot of money, but you still need some money to get into short-term rentals, midterm rentals, any of it. You're going to have some type of capital. But with you guys here, you could teach people and show people how to leverage, you know, their jobs, leverage the capital that think they don't have to invest in real estate. But let's go ahead and let's go back to Michelle, because you didn't have a chance to share with us what was that experience or that deal that made you go all into real estate?
Thank you. Sorry, guys. I'm in a hotel room, so the internet has been kind of crazy for me. So what got me into real estate, I guess, or that deal, was actually being as I mentioned, I was a general contractor. That was intentionally. So I had an opportunity. I originally had a consulting business and staffing. So from there, I had a friend of mine that reached out to me, and these big, large hedge funds were at that time were buying 300 properties a month. So they were hiring subcontractors to come in and do all of the renovations. And so they would have these subcontractors that would come in, and they would be able to take they would get 6 properties that they were working all at one, and they were not hitting their timeline. As we all know, every day that our property is not on market, it costs us money, especially at any level. So I came into an opportunity where I was like, well, that's pretty simple. I'll go ahead and use a staffing model, and I'll go ahead and put crews in each of the properties. So that was how I started in the construction. That was the intention, because I said, well, I want to get into real estate. I don't know how. And I think a lot of people start that, and I always ask that question. They don't know how to get into the real estate, and they think either being a realtor or a wholesaler, and there's just so many different ways. And I wanted to touch on that, you know, on the other conversation. But at that point, I felt that I reached a certain ceiling. And when I hit that ceiling, my construction business, it really was a pivotal point for me to say that I wasn't. And what I mean by that is I had a very good, successful, what I felt was very successful. I had $1 million company that was running, but I just was as well running even 60, 70 hours. And so I wasn't really fulfilling my purpose. So, you know, you can always get the money, you can get the achievement, but if you don't feel you're fulfilling your purpose at that point, that's where I was at. So that's when I decided to go all in. And I said, this will be my last career move, because as everyone has discussed, no matter what, I've been an entrepreneur for 14 years, but no matter which position or where you pivot, it's always starting over again. And I think you guys have touched on it very, very well. You have to have a foundation and some money coming in order to be able to pivot, if it is, even when you're in real estate, wholesaling to residential to multifamily and to syndications to funds. And I think all of us get that shiny syndrome and like, okay, let me try wholesale. Let me try this. Really, I think I've been talking to a lot of individuals. I said, you have to focus on one thing. So for me, that turning point was getting out of the construction, then getting our first, we had a mentorship, but as you know, in any mentorship, you're drinking from a water hose. So I knew that we had money to be able to go in. And I say that now because I'm reading Profit First and I did everything backwards. What I say that is when you go into any business, even if you're leaving your 9 to 5, and this is something I can tell the audience, even if you're leaving your 9 to 5, treat every business with the minimum bootstrap mentality, because if you do pour everything into your business, you may lose it all, and then you're going to have to know what skills, like Alejandro said, what skills you've done, and you may put yourself in a certain position in order to not know how to pivot if you're going and not knowing really the entrepreneur way, right? That's how I got into it. Our first, we were able to get in a mastermind, and then we started with our first property in 2021.
Two things that I want to hit on, right? The importance of, I guess, your why. You know what I mean? Like, what is your why? What is going to keep you motivated in doing a business? Because you can have all the success, just like Michelle just said. You can have all the success in the world, but if you are not fulfilled, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's just like, okay, well, what am I doing this for? And then you can get bored, you can get burned out because you don't have that purpose, right? So that is one of the reasons why I have pulled all of us together, because literally this was probably at 3:00 in the morning one night. Something came to me and it was just like, you need to teach people, or marginalized people, marginalized communities, how to get into real estate investing. Like, we need to build up our net wealth. And I ended up going out and looking at some statistics to see like net wealth for certain communities versus others. And it was just ridiculous as far as what the statistics were saying, right? I just kind of went down this whole journey of doing this research, and this is my why. Like, this is my purpose. Yes, I enjoy teaching people how to do, things in real estate investing, but we need to do more. I need to do more. So how do I do that? And I know I can't do it by myself. So then I am leveraging other people's knowledge, because I don't know everything, right? Leveraging other people's knowledge so that we can help marginalized groups improve themselves, period, right? That's just it. Do any of you have a specific why of what keeps you going? What is your purpose when it comes to your business?
I mean, I articulated that somewhat earlier. For me, obviously, there's a faith component. There's a scripture, a proverb that says, a good man lives an inheritance for his children's children. And although it's not only a wealth inheritance, I believe it's also a spiritual inheritance. But it is a biblical proverb that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. I just think the way that I want to live my life, or how my mom instilled in me, is you always leave a place better than you found it. And being in this business, we've all had the situations where someone leaves your apartment and they leave everything, all the trash, all their undesirables. I want to be the opposite of that. I want to be able to be a pioneer in my family. There's also a saying that a wise man plants a tree that he'll never sit under. Right? So I'm thinking generations down the line, because I took that initiative, that they'll benefit, even though I probably won't be there. But that's, for me, the legacy, even if they just remember a couple of generations, because I know what my mom gave. My mom sacrificed everything. When she came here with us, she came here with $2 and a dream, but she didn't understand how to create wealth. But she just said, if I get my kids to the United States, they're going to have a shot. And as a result, she had to give up her career. I mean, she had to give up everything. And for me, I think of just the opportunity that I have, because she made that sacrifice, then now I get this privilege. And yeah, I believe for me, it's a privilege to be able to do this work and provide my family with the understanding, with the know-how that they can then build on. So that for me is what keeps me going.
So I remember sitting in the bed. The money was in the bank. I was with my dog, and I'm like, I'm not fulfilling my purpose. There's more to this than just money, right? That we all think that the financial freedom is the biggest aspect of it, which it is. We want to have that, but I didn't have a purpose or a why then. And all these, at that time in my career, I was like, what's a why? What's the purpose? Like, my purpose is to make money. My purpose is but not really, really digging deep. And that's how, a lot. And as my story starts to unravel of you guys understanding, my business partner when I first started in real estate was my mom. So I realized that was my purpose. this coming from, you know, a Mexican American family, being a female entrepreneur, and knowing that the life that I've been living in Miami, Florida for the last 13 years, my family wasn't able to, they don't understand that because we were that whole rich dad, poor dad on the other type of mentality.
I am going to wrap this up. So basically, just for you guys in the audience, we are going to come to you once a month with different real estate topics in relation to guiding you to a rental portfolio. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Now, this second portion of the show where we were just talking about our experiences and, you know, basically what made us go all into real estate, that is really a part of our after show. So in the future, you guys may not see that unless you join. So it's the Rental Revenue Builders membership, okay? So you guys would have to click the link below in the description and you would be able to...
I was able to follow that. Mine was simple.
Yeah.
I said I just wanted to be able to make some money to feed my family.
I mean,
I have to work all the time.
That's it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.